What's going on, guys? Coach Joe here at the Lions Den, and this is another episode of Box Talk, which is really just a spin-off of Dave Tate's Table Talk. I just don't have the money right now to buy a huge badass table like him, so we're doing with what we got on these boxes. Now, in this episode today, it's kind of piggybacking off of more of a programming topic, and this is the topic of RPE versus percentages. So I'm going to kind of give you my background with how I've trained, where I'm at now with my training, my thoughts, pros and cons of each, and hopefully it can help you guys out on whether you want to use RPE based training or programming, depending on where you're at with your lifting career. So let's dive on into it. My background with training is I'm 25 years old. I've been training since I was about 13 years old. Started with just a typical 5x5. I guess it was a linear progression. I don't really know because I don't think I tracked it as far back then, but I know when I was in high school I did something similar to a linear progression. But like I said, it's been percentage based all the way up until now. Now the issue is what started happening is I was plateauing and I wasn't making any progress for probably the last year or so. I was just stuck. I was running 5-3-1, I was trying my own programs, other programs I saw online, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And really the last thing I thought to do was change up the programming. I was thinking it was other variables, but what better way to completely try something new and a different stimulus than change up the type of programming completely? And that's why RPE was intriguing to me, and that's why I hopped on board with it. So contacted Barbell Medicine, got Coach Alan Thrall to help me out with programming for me as I get ready for USS Strongman Nationals. And the reason I did that is because I really needed to increase my overall strength. My endurance and my conditioning were great, but this was primarily just about 5 months to increase the strength. And currently I'm on RPE. So what I'm gonna do is talk about kind of what RPE is, okay, the pros and cons, and the same thing with percentage-based training, and you guys can figure out what you wanna do with that information. So RPE simply stands for rate of perceived exertion, and I'll tag some links to some people who have done really good videos on that right up here, so check that out. And I think someone who brought this to light was Mike Tertier, and he was a very high level power lifter, okay? So that's kind of think where it stemmed from. I'm sure he learned it from somewhere, but that was kind of the first way I was introduced to it, was hearing his name getting dropped around. But then people like Alan Thrall, Barbell Medicine, and actually one of my good buddies is a world record holder for his age and weight class, and he used RPE-based training. So that was kind of my first, I would say, exposure to RPE. And RPE works off a scale of 1 to 10, okay? So if you were, say, doing a set of 5 at RPE 8, that means you can only do 2 more. Or maybe you're gonna do a single at RPE 5, meaning you could do 5 more reps at that. Now, for RPE-based training, most of the numbers are always gonna be from 6 to 10. Okay, if you're doing anything lower than a 6, it's really not counting as a working set, and you can use this for your primary lift movements, okay, your bench, your squat, your deadlift, your overhead press, as well as supplementary work to increase those. And that's kind of how you will modify or adjust your intensity and your volume based on RPE. So it's just a different way. It's kind of like, you know, using kilos compared to pounds, essentially. Kind of, but not really at all. It was a horrible analogy. I don't even know why I said that. But yeah. So what most people are gonna say about RPE training, to sum it up, is that you're training based on how you feel, okay? Now, there are pros and cons to that, so we're gonna dive into them right now. So starting off with the pros of RPE-based training, I would say that it helps you self-regulate really well, and it'll let you capitalize on days when you're feeling really good, and it'll also regulate on days you're not feeling so hot. So if you're coming in and maybe you have to hit, say, a single at RPE 8, something you can only do 2 more reps at, and you're feeling awesome, and maybe you come up to what almost was a PR, okay, and it felt really smooth, then you can go for something that's gonna be heavier, and you could, without a doubt, accidentally hit a new PR, okay? Because we all have days where we come in and we're feeling better, and maybe, you know, it wasn't in our workout that day to hit a PR, but it did work out. It could be a rep PR, it could be an RPE PR, so that's cool. On the same aspect, if you're coming in and for whatever reason, you're just not feeling it, or your body's not working as optimally as possible, it regulates. And I do like that because mentally, I feel like it's better for me in that sense where I've had programs where I was supposed to hit 80%, and 80% felt like 90 or 95%. And then I almost feel like a failure when I can't get up to my 90%, or I'm missing reps, and mentally that just defeated me. Now with this, even like today, we had people working up to a single, let's say at an 8. And last week, if I was hyping everybody up for testing week, okay, saying like we're maxing out this week or whatever, and they don't hit a PR, they would be disappointed in themselves. But this week we say, you know, you're gonna work up to an 8. If a PR is there, go for it. If not, you're just working up for that heavy single for that day. So people either have hit PRs or they didn't, but they're like, hey, you know, that was my single for the day, I feel pretty good. So there's a mental aspect of that as well. I will say that it's good for working heavier singles as well, or estimating 1 rep maxes. There's calculators for RPE based training, and it's nice to see where you're trending or even where your back offs are trending. So for me, I can always see that my back offs are slightly increasing over a time span, which is good. My 1 rep max estimates may be up and down a little bit, but there's a path, there's trend, and I can kind of see where I'm at, you know, when I'm capitalizing on good days or fluctuating, you know, for a not so great day. But the cool thing is that you can see and adjust that, so you kind of always have numbers in the back of your head of where you're at. The nice thing about RPE as well is you can base percentages off of the RPE, so it's realistic for that day. So like I said, if you're coming in and you know you're feeling awesome, okay, for whatever reason you're eating good, your sleep was great, you hit a heavy single, then from that single you can base the percentage for the rest of your sets off of to give you a proper stimulus. So that's been the biggest change for me, I would say, is I'm getting a proper dosage and stimulus depending on the day, rather than always coming in and hitting a concrete number and not doing so hot. Overall, those are probably the pros of RPE based training, and that's why I like it. So at the same, there's a flip side to it, things you just want to think about when it comes to RPE, so I'm gonna go over them right now. All right, so now on to some things you want to think about, consider if you're doing RPE or thinking about trying RPE, and we're gonna go through them right now. The first one right off the bat is it takes time to learn and understand it. Like I said, I'm probably intermediate to advanced or bridging over to more of the advanced side, you know, as I continue to train, and it took me about a month and a half to figure out RPE and trial and error, okay? So someone who's been lifting for that long, still it's a learning curve for me to understand it. So you have to be real with yourself. I wouldn't suggest this for a novice. I would say as a novice, what you can do is maybe start asking yourself the question of, okay, how many more reps could I have done? And that'll kind of give you a gauge of RPE, but I wouldn't implement this to a novice right off the bat, okay? It's gonna take time, you really have to understand this, and it is a little bit tricky. Piggybacking off of that is you don't actually know what the true RPE is, okay? Like I said, that's perceived. So yeah, you know, I think it was an 8, but was it really? We don't know, okay? So you have to be careful with that. And some people who are new, right, they may not truly understand how to push. So even for the example in my gym, I think most people's deadlifts are way higher than they actually are because they haven't gotten used to pulling heavy deadlifts. When we all first probably started deadlifting, right, we thought that was our max, but realistically, we haven't done enough heavy work to understand how hard you have to fight for a true max effort. Okay, when you see people grinding it out, I know there's Austin Baraki uses this in barbell medicine, talking about the pain scale, right, 1 to 10, where people come in and they think they're at a pain level of 8, when really a pain level of 8 could almost be like a gunshot wound. Okay, and you're coming in saying that your stomach hurts, you're at pain level 8. So it's all perceived. So you have to be real with yourself and understand that it may not be a true number, and it's gonna take time to understand that. The thing that could be a con, okay, in comparison to percentage, is it's not an actual hardcore number, okay? With percentages, it's nice. You put in the calculator, you have exactly what you need to hit. RPE is not that way, so some people who want a concrete number, percentage-based training is better for that, just because you know exactly what you'll be hitting. The sessions can take longer, which could be a con because you're trying to figure out RPE in the beginning. So for me in the beginning, it took me a lot of trial and error, so I'm in the gym for longer than normal. Whereas, like I said before, you take your calculator out, you know exactly what your reps and sets are gonna be. With RPE, it's, you know, you're gonna do a lot of working up and ramping sets until you understand it. And like I said in the beginning, it's not the best for beginners. So that's kind of my take, pros and cons of RPE. Do with it what you will. All right, so like I said, I was doing percentage-based training for tons of years of my training career, okay? This is the first time I've actually ever switched it up in the last 5 months. So just gonna go over some quick pros and cons. There's not as many as RPE. You probably know a lot of these, but for training with percentages, it's a concrete, easy number, okay? You work up, you think you have your 1 rep max, and then you're just basing percentages off of that 1 rep max or a certain weight that you've hit. So your numbers are easily punched into a calculator and they're right there, as where RPE, it's more based off of feel, okay? So it can be tougher. The other thing is it's great for the general public, okay? So percentage-based training, if I had someone new come in and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do RPE, you're gonna hit an RPE of 5 today at a set of 4, they're gonna just look at me like, what? But if I say, okay, you know, maybe where's your 1 rep max around, let's just guesstimate. And they're like, so, okay, 200 pounds. So we're gonna plug in, all right, 80% for a set of 4, all right? And it's easier for them to understand. And we've all done math, so they can just pick up a calculator and plug it in. And for the most part, I deal with general population and public people who just wanna look good, feel good. They have a background, or if they don't have a background, it's easy for me to just prescribe them percentages and see how they work with that. And the last one's just easy to understand. Like that's all I keep stressing is percentage-based training is predominantly easy training. We can probably all agree with that, you know, so that's that. Now, onto the cons, adversely the pros of RPE is it's not fatigue calculated, so you're not really calculating fatigue into your training, okay? So like I said, if you come in and you have to hit 85, but 85 felt like 90, 95%, it doesn't help mitigate that, okay? So it can lead you to mental problems when you feel like you're missing numbers, you're not hitting numbers, it can mess you up that way. And that's why I like RPE. The cons is that it is a set number, so there's no room for play there, where you know you can't capitalize on good training days. Like when I used to do percentage-based training, it was tough because there were days where I wanted to max out and I knew that there was probably a max in there, and I didn't take advantage of that. Where RPE you can, and on percentage-based training you have to wait 8 to 12 weeks. Well, what happens when you get maybe to that 8 to 12 week mark and you have it on your calendar, I'm gonna 1 rep max today, and you could have done a 1 rep max 2 weeks ago, and that day it wasn't there, you're just gonna feel like a big pile of poo. Yeah, just to sum it up, the last one was just mentally, it could be bad. So those are the pros and cons of percentage-based training. Hopefully you guys maybe took some key points and tips from this. Really what it comes down to, like I said before, is trial and error. You know, if you're a novice, okay, work with percentages for a little bit, ask yourself how many more reps could I have done, gives you a little bit of an RPE scale. And then as you keep progressing in your lifting journey, you can maybe switch over to something RPE based. I know that Alan Thrall talks about the bridge, which Barbell Medicine has out there. So that's a good segue to go from, I think, the novice linear progression, or like a 3x5 or something, or Texas method, to kind of get you switching over to something different, RPE based training. So maybe give that a shot. I'll put the link down below. Or RPE and percentages can be combined, okay? So there's a way to make that happen as well. And you guys can talk to different coaches or see what other people do for their programming and take some advice from them. But I just want to give you guys some information of what worked for my journey. I'm doing RPE right now. It's been working really well for me. I love the fact that it's you know, calculates fatigue into there and capitalizing on really good training days as well as bad training days. And I like using RPE mixed in with percentages to give myself the proper dosing of intensity for either my main lifts or my supplemental lifts, and it's been nothing but doing good for me at the time. Do I think I'm gonna stick with it the rest of my life? I can't answer that question. I know after USS Nationals, I'm probably gonna take a little bit of a break, maybe throw in, I think it's called a pivot block, where I'm doing a bunch of lifts that I've never done before or haven't done in a long time, just to throw something fresh at me, feel good, maybe do a hypertrophy block for 8 weeks, just trying to put on some size, and then we'll kind of reevaluate everything and see where we're at. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, lots of good stuff coming out, good content. I wanna up my content with the videos. I have USS Nationals June 30th, collaboration possibly next week with all people that you know, a big collaboration in the fall that I'm really stoked about, and just lots of little things popping up here and there. Business mastermind and seminar in August as well. So if you guys wanna come and learn how to grow your business based off my successes and failures, you get 2 days to just hang out with me. We'll go over all the ins and outs of business, your business, what I've done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and how to put you on a better track to make your dreams come true and do what you love and make a living doing it. So thank you guys so much. Lean Mean Strength Machines. Catch up with you guys sometime next week. Later.